The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the IGA seminar on the internet here called Invoking the Appraisal Clause. I'm the IGA Executive Director, Gary Hart. I will be moderating this webinar today. The webinar is presented by Autoglass Appraisal Services with Dan Angelillo and Don Moreau. Welcome, guys.
Hello. Thank you.
Kind of as we go along, before I get started, there's a few things you should know about today's webinar. The first thing, everybody on the webinar right now, you are on mute. If you do want to raise your hand and ask a question when we have our Q&A session, there is a button there on your GoToWebinar meeting panel that looks like a hand, meaning to raise it. You can simply click on that and raise your hand. When we get to the Q&A session, I'm going to go ahead and select your channel, call out your name, and when I do that, you'll be able to ask the panelists any questions you might have, interact with them. When you're done, we set you back to mute mode and go to the next person who raised their hand. Also, before I get started, I also want to let you know that this webinar in no means is providing any type of legal advice. Any type of legal advice that you should seek, you should do on your own. The content provided here today is as is. Use your own best judgment and common sense when reviewing these materials. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and look at the webinar agenda. First up, we're going to actually get into what is the appraisal clause. It's also known as the appraisal provision in these insurance policies. The next thing we're going to cover then is what is the actual appraisal process. We'll go in depth and actually see what takes place, who the players are, how everybody interacts, and then what the outcome is. The other thing, too, that we'll go into during the question and answer session, if you would like Dan or Don to dive any deeper into any of the points that they review during this process, by all means, we want you to ask those questions, and Dan and Don will answer them to the best of their ability. Because we will be on a time constraint today, there may be a reason that we have to cut you off, but you're more than welcome to contact Dan and Don independently. Their contact information is going to be made available during this webinar, and at the same time, post-webinar, you'll be receiving some information from the IGA and their group. After we conclude that question and answer session, the IGA is going to then put on a quick presentation to show you that as an IGA member, how you can manage the appraisal process in the total shop management, shop point of sale, and management system. Then what we'll do is we'll also take some questions and answers about the IGA, some of the membership benefits, and then we'll go ahead and conclude. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I will let Dan and Don take it away. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Thank you. Basically, just wanted to start off with some basics. Nearly all property insurance policies contain appraisal clauses that allow the insured and the carrier to resolve what they call an amount of loss dispute. Appraisal is intended to be an informal process in lieu of litigation when an insured and an insurer or the insured assignee have a dispute over the amount of loss. The appraisal process is governed by the appraisal provision set forth directly in the policy, providing coverage for the claim. A typical provision reads as follows. I don't know if you got it up on there. Well, let me just read it off real quick, and then we'll touch some of those points. Basically, it's saying if we and you disagree on the amount of the loss, either may make written demand for an appraisal of the loss. In this event, each party will select a competent appraiser. The two appraisers will select an umpire. If they can't agree on an umpire, that selection may be made by a judge of a court of record. The appraisers will state separately the amount of the loss. Basically, let's cover a little bit of the difference between arbitration and appraisal. Arbitration is more of a formal process that may require legal representation and oral arguments, and it's subject to the rules of evidence and civil procedure. Appraisal is narrow in scope than arbitration. An appraiser's limited power generally does not encompass the disposition of the entire controversy between the parties. The appraiser's authority extends to a determination of the actual cash value, and that's basically what we're doing when we get into appraisal for a glass shop. Go ahead, Gary, you want to jump to the next slide then?
Yep. What's going on here? I'm sorry, I got a tool that just went off here.
All right, the major differences between the appraisal and arbitration: unlike arbitration, appraisal is an informal process, not a quasi-judicial proceeding. Instead, parties only contract with the appraisers to determine the value of the property or the amount of the loss according to the method provided in the policy. And second, an appraisal is not a means of resolving the issue of liability. That typically has already been established by the windshield claim under the insurance policy. Rather, it only determines the amount of the acknowledged liability which has not been agreed to by the parties. So if there's a short pay, something of that nature. And the appraisers act on their own skill and knowledge. And basically, the appraisal process is a means of alternative dispute resolution designed to efficiently resolve disputes over the amount owed on an insured loss by avoiding the substantive and procedural nuances typically associated with the legal process, and also the complexity associated with other forms such as arbitration and or litigation.
Yeah, and here's that sample appraisal clause from an insurance policy that was previously read, just to kind of give you an idea. And you know, Don, you might want to just go back over that real quick.
Sure. Well, I wanted to clarify that most, if not all, insurance policies started off with an appraisal clause. Most do have, but some departments of insurance in various states have allowed the insurance companies to remove the clause. Still, a majority of them do have it. Basically, it's stating if the two parties, either the insured or their assignee, which would be the shop if you have an assignment of benefits, disagree on the amount of the loss, either may demand an appraisal of the loss. In that event, each party will select an appraiser, and both will, if they're unable to agree, appoint an umpire. If they can't agree, then a judge would make that determination. But the appraisers basically just get together and state separately the actual cash value and the amount of the loss. And once if they fail to agree, which does happen occasionally, they submit the dispute to the umpire. And an award, any two of those three will determine the amount of loss. The insured and the insurance company both pay their appraiser and split the cost of the umpire.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a look at what this process actually looks like.
All right. Typically, what starts the process is any kind of a disagreement over the amount of the loss between the insurance company and the policyholder or their assignee, and that's probably one of the more important things to discuss later on, possibly with, I'm sure other shop owners have an assignment, or you may be able to show them, and you can always check the validity of that with their own attorney. Either party may invoke the appraisal clause. And you do have the right to do that. And upon demand for appraisal, each party, again, selects the competent appraiser. And those two will determine the amount of loss. Now, we're able to quite often work with the insurance company's appraiser and negotiate or establish an amount of the loss that is equitable to both parties. And we've done, to point, several thousand appraisals. And it depends on the appraiser and sometimes on the insurance company as to the outcome there. But quite often we're able to resolve it right there. But if not, number 5 would be submitting the information, in our case, to the umpire.
Now, real quick question for you, Don, that I know a lot of people out there probably have on their mind, and it may help some people understand. When we're talking about the assignment of proceeds and then separately the assignment of benefits, real briefly, can you tell everybody what the importance of both of those are, but more so, what should they be looking at as far as what they should have the insured sign that gives them this ability to invoke this appraisal process?
I'm a little cautious on answering that because that may step into an arena of legal advice. But I know there's a lot of shops out there that have assignment of proceeds, which, as I understand it, again, seek legal advice if you have any questions. But what I've seen is assignment of proceeds doesn't always give the insured the shop the ability to invoke appraisal. An assignment of benefits is giving you more of the rights and benefits, as I'm told by a number of attorneys in the past, the ability to invoke appraisal or collect, do a lot more than assignment of proceeds does. But I still encourage anyone to look at an assignment and verify that it is valid before they put it on their invoice and have a customer sign it. But I know a number of shops with a valid assignment are invoking appraisal and are going into the appraisal process with the insurance company.
Excellent. And just so everybody knows, too, the IGA does have a member library. If you're an IGA member, we do have sample language that is available. You can obviously take that information and verify it with your own legal counsel. However, a lot of what is in the IGA member library has already previously been vetted by one or more law firms and or attorneys. So if you are an IGA member, when you log into your Total Shop Management System, click on the library button, and you'll be able to find that exact language in there. All right, so Don, now we're up to step 5 right now. You know, the appraisers aren't agreeing on the language, which I would guess that happens more often, and you're normally going to an umpire situation, correct?
Not normally. I think it's it depends on the insurance company. We are currently able to negotiate and work with the insurance company's appraiser and come to an agreement. So I don't know the percentage, but maybe 60% of the time or so we're able to, or 70% of the time we're able to negotiate before we get to that loggerhead. But there is an occasion that we can, and we do go to umpire.
So now if we do have to go to umpire, let's talk about that umpire intervention. What happens now?
Well, both appraisers are going to present their supporting documentation, submit all the material, and defend their positions, which we do quite often. And the umpire is going to look at both sides. And we do make an effort to try to find umpires that are very, very independent. You know, we don't want anybody as an umpire that may have any kind of relationship with an insurance company. A lot of these guys do have, or gals do have, insurance background, but we certainly look to vet them to try to make sure that they're going to be as impartial as possible. And we've had good luck with having some very good umpires. And I mean, not necessarily in the awards, but certainly in their ability to maintain neutrality and come up with a fair number.
Well, let me really quickly ask you, I mean, the term umpire, I mean, obviously in sports, we're aware of what an umpire is, and, you know, and what does it take for a person to become an umpire in this type of situation? I mean, is there a list that you guys go off of, or how does that exactly work? And who
there is a national database that we work from, and we do vet them quite extensively. We do talk to these guys at length to make sure that they don't have any affiliations with any insurance companies and they are required to divulge anything like that. So we've had great luck with having some very good and very impartial and fair umpires. And I think that.
And these umpires are licensed?
Yes. Yeah, you can't. I mean, occasionally, I think attorneys, ex-judges are available, but these, I'll go into it later, but we try to find ones that are going to allow us to keep the cost down for the shop, because we do try to combine a number of claims because we do so many. We try to combine them together to lower the cost per claim as low as possible. So, you know, if you just brought one to an umpire, it could be very expensive and not cost effective to the shop. So that's what our goal is, to try to keep those costs down to make it worthwhile for the shop, because if the expense is too high, even if you had an excellent award, you're still not going to recover hardly anything. And we've been able to always be able to cover any costs so far.
Excellent. All right, so now we're getting up to step 8 here. We're talking about the award.
It's basically once the umpire comes back with an award, one of the appraisers has to agree with it for it to be binding. And once that happens, it's submitted back to those parties, and then it makes its way back to the insurance company. And so far, they've had to issue a check every single time to the shop. So then they're required to then issue the difference between the short pay and whatever the umpire's award has been.
And do they have to make that payment in a promptly manner, or do they
Yes.
have 30 days?
Again, most insurance policies don't delineate that exactly, but they're pretty good. Usually it's maybe 2 to 3 weeks after the umpire comes back with the award, and they're getting a check in the mail.
Excellent. Good to know. All right, let's go on to some misconceptions I think maybe go around on the internet, some of the message forums, or just maybe what shops themselves have learned in doing research on this. Let's go through a couple of these and give us a good idea of what's right and what's wrong here.
Just the first one. I think a lot of people who are maybe negative on appraisal, they'll tell people that it's going to go on for a very long time. I think it's possible for an extremely complicated appraisal in other businesses. Could it drag on? It's possible. Anything can happen, but glass claims are fairly straightforward. There's not legal representation. There's no judge that you're presenting information to until you get to the umpire, who is also not a judge, and there's no civil procedure. There's nothing that we have to follow. So basically, we can usually wrap it up fairly quickly. On some companies, when we're dealing directly with the appraiser and they're reasonable, which we find quite often, sometimes we can wrap it up in a couple hours. We'll just get on the phone with them and discuss it and come to a number. And if we've got shops that might have 10 or 15 or 20, we may be able to get through those all in the matter of an hour, and then get it back to the insurance company and have them issue a check. So things can move very, very quickly sometimes.
Excellent. And then the next one here, do they need an attorney to be represented during this process?
Not in the appraisal process, no. There's no need for it. It's not a legal process in any way. I don't think it ever hurts if you have an attorney to discuss what's going on, but we have attorneys that are referring their customers to us because the appraisal has been invoked on their client. So we're able to operate completely, and if someone doesn't have an attorney, there's no need for it. But like you say, in this business, it never hurts to have an attorney and as long as you have a qualified attorney that knows the glass business and knows the pitfalls that we run into on a daily basis, trying to go through just billing, I think it's an excellent idea. But just to get through the appraisal process, you don't. It's just a little information, and we handle it.
Then a lot of shops, especially let's talk about just auto glass repair maybe as well, and maybe you can speak to both of them. But for a repair, is it going to be cost effective for someone who's doing maybe auto glass repairs only versus someone who's actually maybe putting these out there as replacements?
Well, certainly there's more in play on a replacement versus a repair. Obviously, the bills are going to be significantly higher, so there's more to try to go after. If they've been short paid, maybe 50% of the bill potentially on the table is anywhere from $150 to $400 or $500 that has been short paid. So obviously there's a dramatic difference there. But the repairs, I think they can recover as well. Our fee is simply $10 per invoice. People have told us that it's ridiculously low, but we knew going into this that you can't attract glass shops to do an appraisal at $100 or $125 like most appraisers do it, or the appraisers that do it for the insurance company. It's got to be cost effective. So
absolutely.
Is it possible? I think it depends on what the insurance company is paying on that particular repair and what the company is charging. But we do have a number of companies that do repairs, and we've done fairly well. We've recovered money for them.
Excellent. And then let's talk about this in the terms of time. Does this appraisal process take too much of the shop's time or the manager's time up? And is it worth their while at the end?
So far, it's been worth the shop's time 100% of the time. Now, obviously, past results are no indication of future results, but it's worked out very well. There's usually a fair amount of money at play, so that it's generally a very effective way to recover a little bit more of what was short paid. And the amount of time that the shop has to involve themselves is not that great. Basically, what they need to do is just simply get us the information for the appraisal, whatever invoices have been short paid, and they may need to send some information to the insurance company if they are invoking the appraisal process. If the insurance company has invoked the appraisal, generally all that information is going to their appraiser, and they just need to name, the shop just simply needs to name their appraiser. And if it's us, we handle everything from that point. They don't really need a lot of involvement. There may be a conversation or two, but pretty much it's that they go on their way and let us do what we do best and try to work out a price that's fair to them and put some money back in their pocket.
Excellent. Before we get on with a quick question and answer session, do you have anything else real quick you wanted to add to any of this? And two, while you're thinking of that, Don and Dan, also if anybody out there wants to raise their hand and ask a question, go ahead and do that now. And at the same time, if you're having trouble with that, go to the chat portion and just simply type in your name. I know sometimes people trying to get around this GoToMeeting interface, sometimes it could be a little bit overwhelming. But real quick, I'm going to turn this back over to you, Don and Dan. Did you have anything else you wanted to add real quick to this before we take some questions?
Just a couple quick statements. At no time am I saying that the appraisal process is the one and only answer for all shops in all situations. I think if someone is interested, we can talk to them and go over what they're doing, how they're billing, what their experience is, if they're having appraisal invoked, where they are. There's a lot of things that vary state by state. So it certainly, secondarily, is if they have another avenue that is working well for them, whether it be arbitration or litigation, then by all means, continue. You know, everything has its place, but at some point they may see, even I know Florida and other states that are like Minnesota is doing very well, possibly in litigation or arbitration. Don't think for a moment that the insurance companies aren't aware of what's going on out there and how they're getting beaten up, whether it's in court or arbitration or whatever means, and they're going to try to change that. And they may very well, and we've seen that a lot in Florida, where they're trying to prevent and preclude those lawsuits from being filed by invoking appraisal. And they're going to do everything they can in any other state to try to mitigate the amount of legal fees that they have to pay. So, and again, appraisal is it's not an all or nothing. There's no reason why you can't just say, hey, look, I've got one from this company. Let's give it a run. You know, you don't have to go after every single company. There's nothing says that you can't just try one here and there as you feel fit.
Sure. Great. Well, it looks like we have Charles Isley has a question for us. Go ahead, Chuck, and ask your question.
Okay. Hi, Don and Dan. How you doing?
Hey, Chuck.
Hey, of course, I'm very enthusiastic about the appraisal process, and you know, all the work that you've done for us. I'm just thrilled with the results, and I would like to do more. So here's my question: Are you guys working on coming up with some contact numbers for various insurance companies? How do the folks that are listening know who to contact, insurance company by insurance company, to invoke the clause?
Well, I think the first step, if someone is interested, is to just give us a call. I mean, we're happy to chat. There's no obligation. Nobody's signing anything, just to go over the problems and the issues that they're having and see if we can find out. And we do have a lot of the contacts with the insurance companies, but there are some that honestly the insurance companies don't always know how to handle it. And a lot of times we're walking them through the process to try to teach them how to handle it, because they don't see appraisal. Let's assume the shop is invoking appraisal. They're not seeing appraisal being invoked on them, or they're not utilizing it themselves, although I do think it's going to start becoming more and more prevalent out there as the more they get sued.
Yeah, that's one of the frustrations that we've had, is that in trying to communicate with various insurance companies, they're really seem to be unaware of internally of who to speak to. And I'm just wondering if there's, any way that maybe we can cooperate or, kind of unite to find out how to make contact with the right people in the right places. I don't know if the IGA can help in that regard, Gary, and once the information is available, if it's appropriate to even, post that so that shops across the country know, insurance company by insurance company who to contact.
I think that's probably, this is Dan, Chuck. I think that's probably a good idea that you're bringing up. Like Don had stated, a lot of insurance companies don't know what desk to send this to, because a lot of times we do find ourselves walking the insurance company through the first few steps until they have a chance to review their own policy at times. But yes, that would definitely be something that we've started, with the information that we do have, with the companies that we've dealt with, and definitely plan on making a collection of that information anytime somebody is able to get that information and add it to that database. So at some point it would be available to anybody that's invoking appraisal.
Excellent, Chuck. Did you have any other questions for the panel?
That's it for the moment. I'll let someone else go ahead and speak.
All right, excellent. And it looks like we had a question from Rob in Hudson, Florida, and I think we may have just actually covered it. He wrote, how do you actually inform the insurance company that you wish to invoke an appraisal?
Usually they require it in writing, depending on the insurance company. If Rob's in Florida, we may have the contact where we can just get it directly to them and let them know that it's being invoked, and then just moving forward from there. It's really a fairly simple process. They usually move along with it fairly well, but there are always going to be a company that hasn't seen the appraisal, and we've, like Dan was saying, that we've actually had companies that weren't aware that they even had an appraisal clause in their policy, because most claims people in the auto glass area don't know a lot about litigation. I mean, they're the beginners, the people that are adjusting those claims. As they move up the ladder, they get out of auto glass claims and onto something far more entertaining, apparently. But in this environment, they just don't know. So we're typically trying to find the person who is managing the claims, maybe in the litigation department, people who are more familiar with the policy itself.
Excellent. And Robert, did that answer your question? I went ahead and unmuted you real quick.
Yes, that was exactly the previous gentleman pretty much asked the same question. So yeah, appreciate it.
Excellent.
Thanks
Perfect.
for
Any other
showing
follow-up?
up, Rob. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Excellent. All right, anybody else? Oh, yeah, we've got Alexander. Go ahead, Alexander, with your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Excellent. Okay, now I have it here in my notes that you said anecdotally the appraisers can work it out between themselves between 60 and 70% of the time. Is that right?
Yes.
Without getting an umpire involved. Now, you seem to have indicated that the turnover time can be as short as a few hours, but in any case, it's far shorter than litigation, which is great. But if an umpire has to get involved, what does that do to the turnover time?
Obviously, a third party is always a little more of a complexity there, but generally we're trying, because we're doing so many these days, that we're always looking for the next umpire, and we're always trying to group the next group of claims into a batch, so to speak, with the next umpire. So we're always trying to get someone that's vetted. We're trying to make sure that he's the right one, get the opposing appraiser to agree to use him. So we're always trying to get a little further out there. But, I mean, let's be honest, the insurance company is in no rush to get this process moving any quicker, and certainly not to get you another check. But we do try to spur it along as best we can, because if you're going to send the the invoices to the insurance company to research, we've got to give them a little bit of time. But a lot of these companies are very familiar with it because they do invoke the appraisal process regularly. So they are familiar with it. It moves along fairly quickly. I think the only issue might be a company that has never seen it before. That might bog it down. But generally, the umpires are of the same mindset that we are. They want to get this done quickly. They don't want it dragged on for months. They want to wrap it up in a few days or a week.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Alexander. All right, one last go around here. Does anybody else out there have any other questions here for the panel? And while we're just kind of moving along the slides here, we do have a couple more panels here for you to see. This is some of the feedback that Auto Glass Appraisal Services has gotten from a few glass shops. Guys, kind of in closing here before we move on to the total shop management and how shops can manage this, do you have any other aspects to add here? And then one last time for anybody to raise their hand on this section.
I would just encourage anyone, if they have any kind of issues, at least to take just a moment if they want to find out information. I'm happy to chat with them and just give them whatever information that we can offer, and maybe a little more information specific to their situation that might help them make a decision and see what's out there for them, and realize that it's not a real cumbersome process. It is designed to be as simple as possible, that you're not having to go to court. You don't have a lot of filing fees. This is why we made the cost as low as we possibly could, and that like I said, when we batch everything together with the umpire, we try to get the umpire as low as possible that we can, and generally we're probably in the maybe $60 range, which is split between the insurance company and the glass shop. So $30 to go, to the umpire is really phenomenally low. Most umpires want it if you just took one case to them in the $300 an hour range. So that's what we've been able to do to try to make the process as streamlined and as cost effective as we possibly can. Excellent.
All right, just looking at this, I don't see that we have any more questions at this point, but we will come back to Don and Dan one last time at the end of that. What we're going to go on with right now is, obviously one of the points or misconceptions here about the appraisal process is that it's time-consuming or difficult, and certainly one of the things that goes hand in hand that Dan and Don can also talk about here is the necessity to have paperwork. So obviously, in the process of providing these to Auto Glass appraisal services, what you're going to have to end up providing them is, what was your invoice, the payments, everything that happened. One would think, well, that's going to be a lot of work. I've got a lot of paperwork. I either need a fax, scan, or email, etc. One of the membership benefits that all IGA members get is a free account, which is called Total Shop Management. It's an online point-of-sale and glass shop management program. What I'm going to do real quick here is just log into it, and I'm going to briefly show you with a few invoices how easy it is to not only manage this information internally for yourself, but then make it available to people like Dan and Don, so that as you're going on through the process, you have that capability to easily say, here's the next 5 invoices or the next 10 invoices. One of the other things, too, if you are an IGA member, we do encourage you to log into your Total Shop Management account. Right here is that IGA member library I was talking about. And this is where you'll find all the information and language regarding some of the things like assignment of benefits and things of that nature. So take a look at there, and there's a lot of documents. If you have any questions, always feel free to contact the IGA main office. Real quick, what I'm going to show you is the way in Total Shop Management that you would set up all these relationships is going to be by your contacts. You would come in and obviously set up for instance, the information for Auto Glass Appraisal Services. And then as you're going through this process, you're going to learn who the other appraisal firm is. So you'll want to punch that in. If it goes to umpire, you're also going to be adding the umpire information as well. So once you've set that up and you put all that stuff in there, when you're in the invoicing process, for instance, we can actually come into an invoice, and there is a button that says Short Pay and Appraisal Process. What this is going to show you now is a panel where you're able to manage this information. So If you did initially have a law firm handling your short pays, you can obviously select that and the date that it was assigned to them. Notes specific to that short pay you would put in there. The nice part about this is as whoever's handling it, as they're clicking it, everything's being time and date stamped so that you have an audit trail. You can come back to all of this and actually see in real time, you know, who you've talked to, when you talked to them, what you've sent them. Obviously over here on this side of the screen, you see that you can print, you can email and fax invoices. So there's a lot of things that you don't have to worry about the compilation, if you will. It's a matter of just pushing some buttons, saving some information, and saying who it needs to go to. As far as the appraisal process goes, obviously here you can see, you know, you can say, well, once the insurance appraiser's been selected, go ahead, put them in the system. This way you can run reports in your total shop management system down the road that start telling you things like frequency. When you were involved with maybe this appraiser or this umpire, what was the outcome? From the date that you put it in here to the date it was settled, what was also the final amount. You get to see all of this in real time. So that way you're not trying to get all of this information manually put maybe into an Excel spreadsheet. You have it right here at your fingertips. So it's a real important aspect to see that managing this with the right technology tools, and certainly this is a membership benefit, you have it right here. Dan and Don and others, they tremendously appreciate this because not only can you provide this information to them very easily, and you're able to answer their questions if they call you up or email you, but the other thing that the companies have access to during this process, online, you can make the invoice available, any images available through a process which we call Claim Harbor. And today, Claim Harbor is used by many different companies, including Safe Flight Solutions, Farmers Insurance Group, just to name a few. They actually go onto Claim Harbor to review the signed work orders, the signed invoices. They look at images in lieu of a physical inspection. So all of that's important to know because it takes very little effort on your shop's part when using the system to provide that information out there. So that is part of the IGA's member benefit. If anybody would like a demonstration of the IGA Total Shop Management, we do have frequent webinars. If you're unable to make the webinar, contact me via email or give me a call. I'd be happy to schedule some time with you to actually show you not only this benefit, but all of the member benefits we have out there. And Dan and Don, do you have any comments on this process that you can see makes your life easier?
Dan, go ahead.
Well, just yeah, absolutely. The communication certainly becomes much easier, and a lot of this is definitely communication. That may tie into, you know, to some degree what even Chuck Isley was mentioning, to where that, you know, that type of database and sharing of information could be, you know, could all be tied up into a system like that.
Absolutely. Real quick too on the IGA membership dues, you know, a lot of people ask, you know, well, what are our dues per year and what are we getting? Well, I'll just kind of go over it. If your shop is 1 to 5 employees, you start off at $450. We max out at $895 a year for 51 to 99. Part of, again, your membership, you get what's called Total Shop Management, so that's free to IGA members. So in that right now, you have the ability to create quotes, work orders, and invoices. At the same time, you're able to put pricing profiles together real time. So that's going to be for your PGW and your migrants and your Pilkingtons. That allows you to do pricing in real time. You also get a free web quoter that allows you to plug that into your company's website, and that allows you to provide quotes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it also has a built-in scheduler. So that way, if your potential customers want to book their own jobs via your website, they can. The only cost to you in this above your membership dues when it comes to Total Shop Management is going to be NAGS licensing, and then if you want to use any of the company's mobile products. There are products that allow on almost any mobile device your technicians to complete work orders, get their jobs, etc. So there's a few other things, but right from the start you're able to jump into this and you're able to do all of the work you normally could do in your current point of sale system, but even more. The nice part about this is it's internet-based. You don't have to install anything. Essentially anywhere you go, you have access to your entire company. Everything is secure very much the way internet banking is, and at the same time everything's backed up for you constantly. Everything's on the web, and it gives you just that freedom. NAGS updates happen automatically. VIN numbers, all of that stuff that typically your software requires updates for, we're actually doing that for you in real time. You never realize it's happening. So there's a lot of good things. This is just one of the many benefits. I encourage everybody to go to IGA.org to get more information on that. The other thing too is people ask, well, can't I keep my current point of sale system and be an IGA member? And absolutely. We have many IGA members that have other packages such as Quest or Main Street or GTS. But what we find is those members start relying on Total Shop Management to do a lot of the other built-in benefits. We have a system called Report Apart. We also have the Supplier Center that on one screen is going to show you the availability and cost for all of your suppliers. So again, for here in the U.S., you're looking at Pilkington, PGW, and Migrant, and up in Canada, you have the capability of seeing Nationwide Glass, VanFax, and independent glass distributors. So you've got a lot of different available options. But this way, that reduces the need for you to have 3 different browser tabs open. It takes time to log in. Each one has to do a part lookup. This is going to allow you to do it in one place. Typically, what we ask you to do, though, to get the most value out of your IGA membership, add up what your total spending on your current point of sale system is. Once you've done that, take a look then and say, well, geez, with my IGA membership, not only am I getting Total Shop Management, but I'm also getting all of these other benefits and access to discounted services such as call center services, marketing and branding, you name it. Not only that, but these other services such as auto glass appraisal services that we brought here today, that's another value add. We're bringing you these educational series, so there's a lot of value for it. Well, I want to just thank everybody for attending today on behalf of Dan and Don and Auto Glass Appraisal Services. And you guys have any closing remarks? And then, too, if anybody had any questions, go ahead and raise your hand now or hit the question button. But, Dan, Don, I'll let you kind of close things up from your end.
You want to go, Don? Or?
Yeah, I think the Total Shop Management is an excellent tool, and I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of advantages when it comes to doing the appraisals. But just a little clarification is, it's not a necessity. If you want to do appraisals, you can do it on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's one thing that I'll also double clarify that. You can be on any system. You can even be using QuickBooks and doing your invoices that way. The information that these guys require, obviously the IGA software makes it easier to get that information not only to them, but it makes it easier for you to manage it. However, though, a lot of people have their own management system, so to speak. So your mileage may vary, but these guys don't require any specific point-of-sale system or affiliation or anything of that nature. Just contact them, and they'll take it from there.
And if I may, I'd just like to take a second, this is Dan, to personally thank everyone that showed up today. The guys that we are working with presently, Chuck and Rob from Hudson, thank you. The folks that we haven't had a chance to work with yet, don't think you have to have a stack of invoices to call us on. The way most people start doing this is they're going to have 1 or 2, it might be safe light companies that they're having a hard time getting through to. And to be quite honest, those tend to be the types of invoices that we do the best with. So, if it's even a question on one invoice, or 2 invoices you want to try, it's not a all or nothing type of thing, and it's definitely worth a shot.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. There will be another follow-up email that goes out, and it'll contain some more information. At any time, remember, visit our websites, and I appreciate everyone, for attending, and also get out there and make a difference. Anytime that you feel that you want to get any just clarification on something, feel free to call the IGA or go ahead and call Dan and Don at Auto Glass Appraisal Services. Thank you very much for attending, and everybody have a great day.